sister's a therapist and I tell jokes. We both want to help all kinds of folks.
Hello, and welcome to My Sister's a Therapist. My name is Virginia Jones, and I'm a stand-up comedian, and my sister's a therapist.
Hello, I'm Laura Ryan, licensed marriage and family therapist. My sister, Virginia Jones, is a stand-up comedian. Welcome.
Welcome. I want to thank all of our repeat listeners. It's great hearing from you. It's great seeing your reviews. We appreciate you. And I want to give a special shout out to all my ex-boyfriends. Hey, guys.
All my exes live in Texas, and that's why I live in Tennessee.
Several of my exes live in Texas, and several of them listen. And I'm just going to say, hey, it's cool that you're here. I appreciate you. I hope you're doing good. I'm looking at your kids on Facebook, and they're cute.
I'm going to say hello to none of my exes because I'm pretty sure I would have a cease and desist if anyone heard this.
Right. My most recent ex is listening. You shouldn't.
You've been warned. Also, hello and shout out to all of our newer listeners. I've had 3 people on my TikTok tell me today that they are following us now.
Laura has been a TikTok maniac. She is dropping so much science and so many videos, and she's boots on the ground. I'm
basically blowing up at this point. I'm at 330 followers. I am Laura Ryan TikTok account. Please check me out.
And, you know, you say that, but it's 300 times when you had one person.
It's just, I just remember a couple years ago, it was just a lot easier. Now it just feels like almost impossible to get followers. Because I had 150, I'm just going to throw this out there. In 2020, I had 150 followers on an account that had no videos on it.
I had a very LA TikTok thing happen the other day. I was out to dinner with my friend Bill, and
Shout out to Bill.
Hey, what's up, Bill? We were leaving a vegan restaurant, and a musician that I know from TikTok was entering the vegan restaurant, and she has very distinctive hair. And it was just a funny experience because I looked at her, and when you recognize someone that you know from TikTok or television, your first impulse is always, oh, they're my friend, because your brain recognizes them. And your brain is like, oh, that's my friend.
There's a wave of recognition that pops onto your face.
Right. And I've experienced it when people have done it to me, so I know what it looks like.
I too have experienced it. I don't know if you know this. I was on KVU News in 2001. Okay. But everybody would come into the office and they would see me behind the counter and be like,
they'd light up.
They would light.
I know that.
I am somebody, but I wasn't. I was just a hypnotist on KVU.
You're still somebody to me. I do think that that's part of the pleasure of recognizing celebrities. It's just your brain likes recognizing people. So I clocked her. She clocked me clocking her. And then we just kind of moved on. It was super LA.
It reminds me of when Emily and our other sister and I broke into the Saturday Night Live weekly party.
You were sort of invited by...
We were escorted in by the Strokes. But yeah, I was walking around. I was like, I think I was just that person for an hour. I know you. It was I remember saying, it's like going to a work party where everybody knows each other. And I know who everyone is, but no one knows who I am.
No one knows. Yeah, a little off topic, but when I first moved to Los Angeles, sometimes you get invited to a party. They're like, oh, there's a party at Kanye's house or whatever, someone famous. And I went to a couple famous people's parties.
Do you mean Yeezy?
It wasn't Yeezy's party. It was actually Pharrell's, and very nice. But I stopped going because you go to these parties, and yes, you're in the room with famous people, but they don't know you and they don't give a crap about you.
Right. They're there to talk to the other famous people. That's what I noticed at the SNL party. Everyone wants to talk to the other famous people in the room, not to me. And they're not interested in my stupid fan stories.
Right. So I'm just saying that it's not all it's cracked up to be going to famous people's parties. And parking is usually very difficult. And that TikTok celebrity was Tess Violet. Okay.
The celebrity that I talked to was Jimmy Fallon. He was very nice.
Oh, that's sweet. I was talking to my friend Bill about TikTok, and he said something to the effect of that's not for me. It's just a bunch of dancing kids. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to evangelize about TikTok to you right now, but TikTok is all things.
Like everything on the internet, it's all the things.
It's all the things. It's the outfits, the Omega, everything you've ever wanted to know. I'm on Black Vintage Girl TikTok. I'm on Super Obscure Music Fact TikTok.
I'm on Therapy TikTok every hour of every day.
speaking of which, so Laura and I have talked a lot about how she's a therapist and I'm a comedian, but we haven't talked about the fact that we're both music weirdos.
Singer-songwriters, maybe?
We've both sung a song, we've both written a song, but we're also huge music fans, aficionados of music. And that comes up on my topic today, which is music and mental illness. Now, they taste great together and happen a lot together. So I'm not as much interested in just talking about musicians who are mentally ill. What I'm interested in is talking about especially how someone's lyrics reflect their specific mental illness.
Right.
And so that's what I would like to talk about. And we're going to start with maybe the template, the mentally ill musician. That is, do you want to guess?
Is it easy?
No.
Is it Nick Drake? I don't know. It's tough to say. There's so many to choose.
There's so many. So I'm starting with Syd Barrett.
Oh, yes.
So he was the original lead singer guitarist for Pink Floyd. The first Pink Floyd record is just him all over. And the diagnoses for Syd are speculative, right? It is thought that he had definitely bipolar and probably schizophrenia. And
I'm going to say schizoaffective disorder.
And what's said about him is he took so much acid that he fried his brain. And that's not really a thing. But from what I understand,
I don't know that it's not a thing. I think if you've taken a lot of drugs, it does affect your brain.
Because I've heard this about a couple artists, they just took so much acid, it fried their brain. But what it is you have a tendency towards psychosis. You have a tendency towards schizophrenia, and acid can push you in that direction. And I've actually seen a friend of mine who's a very funny comedian and a very interesting person. They had an opportunity related to a famous comic, and they smoked a good amount of pot, right? They were a good amount of pot smoker a day. And they actually smoked so much pot that they had a psychotic break. So you can medicate yourself into psychosis if you have that tendency anyway.
Right. If it's already in the brain box. Schizoaffective disorder. It's a mental disorder characterized by abnormal thought processes and an unstable mood. This diagnosis requires symptoms of both schizophrenia, usually psychosis, and a mood disorder. So nailed it.
Yeah, no, you nailed it. You nailed it. So, but even when Syd was healthy, he was writing lyrics like, I've got a mouse and he hasn't got a house. I don't know why I call him Gerald. He's getting rather old, but he's a good mouse. And in Vegetable Man, in Yellow Shoes, I get the blues, though I walk the streets with my plastic feet. And then the whole rest of the song is just about the outfit he's wearing.
Okay. So that's one way to do it.
So when he was good, healthy, he was writing lyrics like that. And then increasingly, he got kicked out of Pink Floyd because sometimes he would just play one chord all night. Sometimes he wouldn't leave his dressing room. And the band was like, you're great, but we got to cut you loose. This is not being a good band member.
You're not lending anything to the band.
But he did some of his own stuff. And then he just kind of stopped performing and kind of went into himself and never really was in the public eye again. But a huge influence on Nick Drake, Ramen Hitchcock, who arguably has just answered the question, what would it be like if Syd Barrett was still making music and it was me? Huge influence on Bowie and Mark Bolan and Julian Cope and Tangerine Dream. So he's someone who, even though his contribution was really short and really strange.
Well, I have a friend who was reading a romance novel, and this person was talking about a kiss, and they said it was deep but brief.
Deep but brief.
So I would say deep, but we were trying to figure out what is a kiss. It's you just shove your whole tongue in someone's mouth for 1 second.
You form a seal on the other person's mouth. You just jackrabbit your tongue out like a spear, touch their tonsils, and come back in.
Well, that's what Syd Barrett did to the music industry.
So on this tip, I've got two Austin legends on this list. Also, paranoid schizophrenia is Rocky Erickson.
Absolutely. Everyone said he did too many drugs too. That was always the thing.
Right. And I was reading up on it. His band, the 13th Floor Elevators, they promoted drug use. They were advocates of it. In 1969, Rocky Erickson was arrested for possession of marijuana. He had one joint on him. So he thought he was very clever. He pulled a Randall McMurphy from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He said he was not guilty by reason of insanity, but like Randall, he went to a hospital for the criminally insane and was diagnosed with schizophrenia.
Didn't leave. They kept him there.
And didn't leave.
Bro, here's another fun, but I used to work with a pizza chef at Easy's Burgers and Pizza. Shout out. And he was in Rocky Erickson's band.
Wow. That is cool. But yeah, he was in and out of institutions for a long time. He believed his body was inhabited by aliens. He was arrested for stealing his neighbor's junk mail in 1990. And then other Austin legends, Butthole Surfers, got together with REM and I guess the Fabulous Thunderbirds, and they contributed to a record to raise funds for him. And he's
kind.
And again, someone whose contribution to music was short. But yeah, I don't think that acid made him schizophrenic. I think he had the tendency, and that tendency was promoted.
Right. If you already have the paranoia, you already have the kind of strange way of thinking about the world, and then you take a bunch of drugs, it's not going to do you any favors, probably.
So we're going to roll right into the second Austin legend, which Laura can probably guess.
R.I.P.
Daniel Johnston, rest in power, bud. So his diagnosis is bipolar spectrum disorder and psychosis. And he was not just a musician, but also a great visual artist. And a lot of these musicians who are like plagued with mental illness, that it restricts their ability to behave in the world and to work in the world, they're known as like outsider artists and outsider music. And I've always been super interested in that. There's a really good book, Songs in the Key of Z by Irwin Chusid, about outsider music that Daniel and Rocky are both in.
There's also a really great documentary called The Devil and Daniel Johnston, out in 2005. It was very, very good. Emily and I saw that in the theater.
Very good, very sad. But he was another Austin legend. The painting of his multi-eyed frog that says, "Hi, how are you?" was on the side of a record store on 6th Street for a long time.
Still there.
But it's not a record store anymore.
No, but it's still there, though.
In LA, when we have a legendary mural, we cut into it and make a bar out of it. There's a Elliott Smith, the wall he used for an album has been a couple different things. It was an Elliott Smith themed bar, but they cut into the mural to make the bar, which is stupid.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But yes, the mural is still there. And you know why it's famous, right?
Tell me.
Cobain really liked the mural, and he got a t-shirt of it and he wore it on national TV. And that's kind of how everybody outside of Austin found out about Daniel Johnston.
But truly, like, beautiful lyrics, childlike. True love will find you in the end. You'll find out who is your friend.
Yeah. I mean, I don't love all of his music, but the music that I love, I really love.
Love a lot. Yeah. A lot of songs about being an outsider, a lot of songs about loving women who wouldn't love him back. Really sweet and really sad. So, and he just had severe bipolar. So I found out stuff about Daniel, like he beat up a member of Sonic Youth whose couch he was sleeping on, like, because musicians always wanted to help Daniel Johnston, like,
right,
much love, but because of mental illness, very hard to manage.
Did you hear about the plane crash that he caused?
Oh no.
If you watch the documentary, you'll hear all about it. But his dad had a 2-person plane. When Daniel had shows, his parents had to go to all of his shows with him because of his mental illness. And so Daniel decided to stop taking his bipolar meds, but he didn't tell anybody. And his dad was flying across a ravine, and Daniel went ahead and ripped the steering wheel and tried to kill him. He was unsuccessful. But I think his dad broke all the bones in his body. So yeah, mental illness really did negatively impact his, like, the lives of randos that he met and also his intimate, closest family members.
And Daniel Johnston, like, we talk about battling your demons. Like, he definitely believed in demons.
Like, quite literal demons.
Literally believed in demons and thought he was protecting people from demons or saving himself from demons. But another dead person, Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys. And he wasn't just a Beach Boy, like, he was the main Beach Boy. He was the principal songwriter. He kind of created the sound. But even by 1968, he was having a lot of difficulty functioning. So he was diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder and bipolar.
Right.
He did find a regimen of pills that helped him. And he, like, the big, like, post-diagnosis accomplishment was he finished Smile, which was a project that went unfinished for years and years and years.
Did you ever hear the Bare Naked Lady song? I'm lying in bed, just like Brian Wilson did.
I would say Make a Wish is the Brian Wilson song that I think is most reminds me most of his mental problems. I wish I had a magic wand to make all wishes come true, help our troubled world a long time to come to its rescue, make a wish.
I think also God only knows, right?
Yeah. God only knows what I'd do without you. Like,
the world could show nothing to me. So what good would living do me?
God only knows what I'd be without you. Bare Naked Ladies has got me in trouble twice. One time I was at a party. I was at a birthday party for a girl I knew, and a Bare Naked Ladies song came on. Someone was singing at a karaoke, and it was the Sonny and Cher, like, I got you, babe, like, we don't got much. I had been drinking, and I started yelling at the top of my voice, who the F, this is I hate this song. And then I turned around and I saw that it was my friend proposing to his wife, like getting on one knee, singing this song. I had to shut up very quickly. There was a weekend I was hosting for Harlan Williams, comedian, and we were hanging out.
Did you say Canadian comedian?
Yeah, he's a Canadian comedian.
Oh, I thought you just said comedian.
He's a comedian. He's a Canadian Canadian.
I was like, does that mean something?
And for some reason, like, Bare Naked Ladies was playing or something. I started crapping on him. And Harlan Williams said to me, oh, yeah, that's my cousin's band. Because of course it is, because Canada has 5 people in it.
Yes. Shout out to Will Arnett. He's the 5th person.
So next is an artist that Laura and I really romanticized when we were young suburban hipsters. We've already mentioned him once. It's Nick Drake.
Now, what are we now? Old city center hipsters?
Old urban hipsters, I would say.
Old urban hipsters.
So Nick Drake, depression, passed away at 27, tragic. Still argued whether it was on purpose, like his mother was like, he seemed fine.
No, his mother absolutely says he was fine, but I believe her because she's going to know better than anybody else.
But also that he was ill enough that he needed the level of antidepressants that he could so easily overdose.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a sign that you have a pretty severe mental illness.
So Laura and I were talking about, and he was so beautiful, and he died so young.
He was so talented. He was so talented.
Right. But depression and OCD, I've actually seen Robin Hitchcock cover Nick Drake, which is pretty cool. But he talked about how it was very hard for Nick to play in public because if he messed up one note, and he would play these incredibly complicated, like, finger picking songs, but if he messed up one note, he would have to start over.
Yes, the entire song. So if he's 3/4 of the way through, he has to go all the way back to the beginning.
All the way back. But he had lyrics like, time has told me you're a rare, rare find, a troubled cure for a troubled mind. And then the man who lived in the shed, there was a man who lived in the shed, spent most days out of his head, for his shed was rotten in the rain, said it was enough to drive any man insane. And when it rained, he felt so bad. When it snowed, he felt just simply sad. And then he tries to convince a woman to, when he called her his shed's a man, she said, I'm sorry, you'll just have to find a friend. And we thought it was so romantic when we were children. And now I'm like, oh no, this is a mentally ill person demanding for a woman to caretake him, and she doesn't want to.
The biography of Nick Drake by Patrick Humphreys, very informative, quite good.
So on this tip, Cobain, obviously ADD, bipolar.
I would also bring in the, drug and alcohol problems. That's part of his mental.
Sure. I mean, and a lot of these, those comorbidities, right?
Comorbid, yeah.
The song that I think is most about his struggle is Lithium, and because it sounds like a bipolar person.
Well, he's also talking about the drug that's used to treat
the drug that I'm so lonely. That's okay. I shave my head and I'm not sad. And just maybe I'm to blame for all I've heard. But I'm not sure. So excited. So he goes straight from like, I'm so sad and lonely. I'm so excited. I can't wait to meet you there. I'm so horny, but that's okay. Like, it is the bipolar experience, like ratcheting thing to say.
That's giving bipolar.
Yeah, it's definitely giving bipolar. It is sad that most of these people are dead. Here's another one.
Let's just say, if you look at the Gen Pop, when you have mental illness that's severe enough that other people are noticing, then you're probably not going to live a long time, unfortunately, just because it becomes unbearable if it's not being adequately treated.
And most of these people, a lot of them from the 60s, 70s, 80s, there wasn't a lot of treatment.
No, Nick Drake didn't have the bipolar or depression meds that we have today, which is why I get so frustrated when I have a client who clearly has depression and they're like, yeah, I don't know. And I just say, if you were born 100 years ago, this option would not be here for you. So let's take advantage of the options that are available to you.
Well, and that was the thing, you mentioned it, that Daniel Johnston just kept going off his meds and going off his meds. And he really needed someone to caretake him and make sure he took his meds every day. And for a person without mental illness, it feels like a gimme. Like, if you feel better on your meds, take your meds. Like, I feel better on my meds, I take my meds.
That's the thing, though. Bipolar, just pro fact, people with bipolar are the least likely to be consistent with their medication because it evens you out, and they really, really enjoy the ups. And so
don't miss the downs.
They don't miss the downs, but the ups, I mean, it does sound pretty incredible. I think it's probably like taking a whole bunch of cocaine or something. But, I think you feel so energized, you feel so happy, you feel so excited, and you don't want to lose that.
Yeah. Daniel Johnston, talking about his ups, said, like, that's when I'm creating, and that's when I'm making a bunch of stuff, and that's when I'm really excited. And that's like, it's like a superpower.
Right.
Except for the logic is not always great. And
I know. I remember I had a client who wrote a whole book in the middle of a bipolar episode. And when it was over and they were actually back to depression, they read the stuff that they wrote and they were like, what even does this mean? Like, they were staying up all night long with all of this passion and excitement, and they had very little to show for it.
I have a couple friends on that are like me on depression meds, and like, one friend was like, well, I'm doing okay on these 2 meds. Like, I might take off this one. And like, I had dinner with a friend the other day who was like, well, I was on this dosage and I'm going to change to this. Like, I got down to this dosage. And I'm like, why? If it's working, like, why mess with it?
Because I think a lot of people have fear about the side effects. I think a lot of people are afraid to take any medication. Like, I was talking to somebody just this week about how it would really benefit them to go ahead and get on the medication. And they said, well, it's not natural. And I said, yeah, it is. Everything is natural. Everything comes from nature ultimately. Like,
right.
Yeah, I think it's
nothing is coming to us from space. Like, it all
came from natural ingredients.
Right. Yeah. And I resisted taking depression meds for a long time because the justification I gave myself was, I'm not sick enough. But
why do I have to be?
Right. Why do I have to be? Because I would say, like, because I thought I was depressed. And then I started doing comedy. I'm like, oh, these people are depressed. Like, these people have real problems.
Yeah, because everything is on a spectrum.
Yeah. The conclusion I came to when I started taking them and started feeling better or thinking clearer, I'm like, if it helps at all, just take it. Like, if it helps 5%.
Yeah. Why wouldn't I take something that's going to benefit me? That doesn't make any sense.
Right. Why do I feel guilty about taking?
Exactly. Like, I was talking to someone about ADD medication and they're like, well, I'm getting by. And I'm like, but why would you just want to get by? I want to do better than get by, which is why I take my medication, because it actually helps me to function in the world. And I'm not having to do all this weird stuff and have these rules and do all that just to remember how to be a person. It's a lot easier. Why wouldn't I use a cheat code if it's right in front of me?
Right. And it doesn't cost me anything. I mean,
it does cost you something.
Some medications do cost you something. Like, my medication, I'm not having very many side effects, but like, yeah, there's like, the bipolars are going to miss their highs. But if it helps you, like, why not just do that? And it's hard.
My medication costs $2. I just found that out.
Oh, great. Well, wonderful. How much are you paying for it?
$2. I'm paying $2 with my insurance. Yes.
Got it. So someone who probably would have benefited from Wellbutrin is Ian Curtis from Joy Division.
1,000%.
He also had epilepsy. And I think that those things together really gave him a lot of trouble.
Yes.
And so he took his own life at 24 years old. Like,
he was already a parent. Like, he was already married and a kid. I was like, wow, that's wild.
Life started really young when, like, they did have birth control then, but like, still very much the normal thing that you marry right out of high school, you marry whoever's around. But the fact that he was able to like write and perform at his level at 24 is also incredibly depressing.
Deep but brief.
Mother, I tried. Please believe me. I'm doing the best that I can. I'm ashamed of the things I've been put through. I'm ashamed of the person I am. And then about epilepsy, we've got She's Lost Control. Fusion in Her Eyes, it says it all. She's lost control. Like, it's a scary song. Like, it's a banger.
She's lost control.
But like, this is what he's experiencing. Like, it's so, when you think about the lyrics in the frame of his mental illness, it just takes on a deeper, meaning for me. Like, the pathos of it is what I really get my teeth into and enjoy, I think.
Right. Also, fun fact, the pizza guy that was in the 13th floor elevators also had epilepsy.
Oh, wow.
He showed me, he said, if I ever, have a situation, just here's my wallet, just put it in my mouth.
That's a lot to put on
An 18-year-old.
An 18-year-old at a pizza stop. I'm glad that he was giving you information.
It was good intel. I know what to do if you have a seizure, guy from the pizza place.
Are we singing about a lady right now, Ian, or are we singing about you?
I think, I remember Elvis Costello when he was talking about writing lyrics. He's like, I start out and it's 100% autobiographical. He's like, and I try to change one word in every line so that it's not.
Yeah, but I guess that's the bigger point of this episode is that creativity, like the creative impulse, you are making up a certain amount of it. A certain amount of it is just you. Like you make what your machine makes.
Yes.
You take in stuff, you have experiences, you have relationships, like everything that anybody's ever written about on some level is based on a real experience. And I don't know, it's just when people say like, where do your ideas come from? My ideas come from my life. So my writing is going to affect my life.
My ideas come from my brain.
My ideas come from my brain.
Do you know the song Love Will Keep Us Together by Captain and Tennille?
I certainly do. And do you know that Love Will Tear Us Apart is a parody? Like, it's so funny. It's a parody of that song, like, or at least the title is.
Right.
And it's so funny because those songs seem so far apart.
They're so different
on the timeline. But yeah, I had looked it up. Love Will Keep Us Together.
That was one of the songs that I was in a new wave cover band and we covered that song.
So Love Will Keep Us Together, 1975. Love Will Tear Us Apart, 1980. But it's so funny to think about a world that those songs influence, like one influenced the other.
Right.
It was, when I found that out, I was like, oh, why didn't I ever think of that before? But also when I went to the David Bowie exhibit in London, David Bowie that was the first time I realized that Space Oddity was a pun on Space Odyssey. Because they came out of the same, like the one was influenced by the other. And I'm like, oh, okay. It just seems like when it's something that I'm really interested in like that, and it's something so like this seems so obvious, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I'm not smart.
Maybe I think it's a context thing, right? Because like, when I'm listening to Love Will Tear Us Apart, it's, probably 1990. So Captain and Tennille didn't even enter the script,
Right, because you weren't alive when both of the things, or you were alive.
I was born.
Yeah, you were born.
When
you were listening to the radio a lot.
I mean, I might have been. I don't have a lot of memories from that year because it was the year I was born, but it's out of context, right?
Yeah, you're not carrying it in the context of the time. My favorite story, so my sister is a therapist, but she's also a very talented singer. And she was in a band that was a new wave cover band. And you did a Cure song, you did Love Will Tear Us Apart. What were some other songs that were on your repertoire?
We did Bauhaus. We did, at my insistence, Morrissey. Just basically whatever the greatest hits of 1990.
Were you doing
94.5 The Edge?
Right. What Bauhaus song were you doing? Were you doing Bela Lugosi's Dead?
Yeah. The bats have left the bell tower. Okay. The victims have been red velvet line. The black box.
If you really want to sound like Peter Murphy, do a David and Bowie impression and see how that gets you. Because that's what he was doing.
I'm also a man, so it was hard for me to sing that song because it is very low.
My favorite story about your band, so it was like it was like the bangers. It was the best of new wave music. It was the best of. And like someone at a party, they played some parties and someone at the party came up to her afterwards and said, oh my God, all those songs are incredible. Did you guys write those?
Absolutely. I wrote all of these. I wrote all of these songs.
I wrote all of them. All right. My last two artists on my list are alive, and they're both artists that I like a lot. One of them is Sia, and
Love Me Some Sia.
Love Me Some Sia. And her song Chandelier is a fun party song, but also a party song about addiction and depression and like the kind of mania. I'm holding on for dear life, won't look down, won't open my eyes, keep my glass full until morning light because I'm just holding on for the night. Sun is up, I'm a mess, gotta get out now, gotta run from this. But she has also shared that she is someone on the autism spectrum. And she said, for 45 years, I've felt like I've got to go put my human suit on. So like alcoholism is sometimes a way that we mask.
Well, it's a way that we manage our symptoms.
She says, only in the last 2 years have I become fully myself. And like, it is so interesting to me because it explains so much about, especially her performance. You know, she likes to wear this wig and hide her face.
Right.
Like
or
literally masking.
Her back is to the audience also.
Right. Because that's how she feels comfortable. But she's finally like been diagnosed and realized she just needs different coping strategies so she doesn't have to like hide from it. And we're stoked for Sia and we love Sia.
I remember seeing an interview with Sia in 2020 and she was saying like, this is the best time I've ever had in my life. She's like, I don't have to leave the house. I can wear my pajamas all day. I'm in my cozy bed watching movies and no one is bothering me. Like she was doing this interview from her bed. She was like,
this is the best.
I can stay up all night. Nobody cares. It's all good. Yeah. It was like really ideal. And up to that point, I had no idea how much she was struggling mentally.
And then my last artist who we both love a lot, I think, also on the autism spectrum is Gary Numan.
Classic.
And we were just talking about him. I mean, probably a conversation about him is what led to this podcast. But when I found out he was ASD, I was like, oh, wow, that makes the cars so much sense. Like he really does feel safer in his car. Although Laura told me a sad story about it.
Oh, I saw an interview with Gary Numan because I always think this is like the coolest song. Like it's so, when I listen to it, I feel like I'm cool. But he was talking about, which is a very old person word to use. But anyway, I feel like I'm rizzed up.
You got a lot of rizz. Yeah. It's so 80s. The sound,
it's so 80s. It's so
metallic hand clap.
It's so clean. So clean.
Yeah.
And it
feels
just
very minimalist.
Yeah. It's just when I hear it, a certain feeling comes over me and I love it. But I heard him in an interview talking about the song Cars, because obviously that's his biggest hit. So I found out two things about him. One, he did not play electronic music until he went into a studio one day and they didn't have his guitar and there was just a keyboard in the room. And he was like, well, I guess I'm going to use this. So he made a whole album with it. And he was like, this is kind of cool. The other thing that I learned is that he was talking about the song Cars and he was saying that he was somewhere in public. I think he was at a bar and these men just started chasing him. They were trying to beat him up. And so he went to his car and hid in it until they left. And he was inspired to write that song. And I thought, that is not cool at all. No. That's anti-Riz.
It's anti-Riz, but it's very literal. Here in my car, I feel safest of all. I can lock on my doors.
It's the only way to live in cars.
It's the only way to live in cars. And sometimes that's where art comes from. It's just literally something happening. But the sad lyric for me relating to his ASD is Our Friend's Electric. And like at the end, I was having an argument with a man because Information Society did a cover.
Because why not?
Because why not? Because it was a day. Because Information Society, which is a band that I like a lot, they did a cover of Our Friend's Electric. But in my opinion, no one is ever going to beat the original version because it's so sad. And like, I'm always going to prefer the Gary Numan version because of the breakdown at the end of Our Friend's Electric. So I found out your reason for the phone calls and smiles. And it hurt. And I'm lonely. And I should never have tried. And that just says so much to me about his experience of feeling isolated.
Right.
Feeling
his
like
experience of being a person.
And feeling not like other people. And my friends broke down in the hallway, and I have no one to love.
Right. That's inspo for you.
Also, yeah. I nearly married a human. Very funny, very ASD.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that, ladies and gentlemen,
that is our show.
So I'm going to close by saying, according to a 2019 study by the Swedish platform Record Union, 73% of independent musicians experience mental illness. When we talk about just between 18 and 25 years, 80% of musicians experience mental illness. A study at the University of Westminster, 8.5 musicians have experienced depression. 71% have experienced severe anxiety or anxiety attacks. So musicians are 3 times more likely to experience depression than the average person. Musicians tend to have a higher genetic risk factor for depression and bipolar disorder. So the art that comes from who you are, that comes from a mentally ill person, is also created by people with depression, anxiety, panic, mental illness. It's an Ouroboros. It's a snake eating its own tail. You are mentally ill as a musician.
So therefore you feel drawn to create. And then
you're drawn to create, much like the comedy circle. Like
I was going to say, I feel like the statistics sound like stand-up comedy.
Right. But no one's checked on stand-up comics because nobody cares about us.
Oh,
So that's my conclusion, that musicians are not just mentally ill as a coinky-dink. They're musicians because they are mentally ill.
they are drawn to the profession because of their mental illness. Yeah, that makes sense.
So Laura, what are your final thoughts on this topic of musicians and mental illness?
Well, my takeaway, I guess, is that I feel like people who don't struggle with mental illness are still going to be able to connect with music when they're at their very highest and very lowest, right? So to me, like when I have a breakup, I really lean on music. And I think the difference is that the things that I experience are felt a lot more deeply, I think, by people who are struggling with mental illness. And so they're creating this art that I can relate to in my highest and lowest moments. But they're feeling that way all the time.
The human experience, right?
Right. They're feeling that way all the time. But there are moments where I can really, really connect to and relate to the feelings that they're having, because it is part of the shared human experience. But I think, when you have a little mental illness, that's going to motivate you, especially if you have bipolar, that's going to motivate you to work harder and do all the things. Like I remember watching the Kanye West documentary. It was about his early days in hip hop. And I just kept thinking, God, he is a workhorse, right? He is overturning every rock. He is doing everything that he can. And I think a lot of it was because of his bipolar. Like he was very motivated. Like I remember he went to MTV, had a friend who worked at MTV, and they let him use their studio overnight so that he could cut these videos by himself because he didn't have any money. But he was like so motivated to create his art. And I think that, a lot of that had to do with his untreated bipolar. So Virginia, what are your final thoughts?
I enjoyed your final thoughts, by the way. And I think that is true. I think that artists with mental illness are able to tap into some of the universal human experiences. They're maybe a little bit closer to the surface, right?
Right. It's like closer to the bone. They're closer to the bone all the time. And that's why they have access to these emotions all the time.
So between this episode and Comedian's episode, like my takeaway is that people who are not neurodivergent and who do not have some kind of mental illness are just uncreative garbage.
They should just jump off of a bridge, as far as I'm concerned.
But they won't, because they don't have depression.
They'll
they
probably
won't have suicidal.
Go on living a normal life and maybe being happy and having children and going to birthday parties.
Going to Target all the time? I don't know.
I still do that.
So we do want to say how much we enjoy getting reviews on Apple Podcasts. That's pretty much the only thing that keeps us going in this world and keeps us out of our severe depressions. Laura, so
we're just going to call it shared severe depression. We can overlap.
So if you do enjoy the show, if you would like to write us a review, we would love it. Only write us a good review. If you want to write us a bad review, step away and don't listen anymore. Laura, do you have a listener review to share with us this week?
I sure do. For our listener review segment. Yes, keep them coming. I would love to hear more listener reviews. So if you think of something wonderful to say, please do. If you think of something terrible to say, find a chalkboard on a rainy day and write it all on there, and then the rain will wash it away. Okay, so we have a listener review from CAD Listening. The title is I'm Clueless, and it's a 5-star review, and we love those. Thank you for listening, CAD Listening. Hi there. I've been listening since the beginning of your podcast. I'm thinking that I must be living in a well-ensconced, safe place. In the podcast, Are Women Funny? It totally opened up my eyes, even wider, to the multi-layers of prejudice towards women. I have just taken that sort of bias and felt that it was simply the unquestioned boundaries in which I have been living for 63 years. Sometimes I am allowed to at the big boy table in the worldly discussions, but mostly I'm just tolerated. But I never put words to it before. I am so glad that you ladies are putting words to the bias that I have felt all of my life. It gave me an aha moment this morning. You two, please continue to go and spread the word. This old lady is behind you and cheering you on.
I mean, that's exactly what we want to do it for, right?
This is why we're here.
Well, we're here not to get too far up our butts, but this is
why we're doing the things that we're doing. We want people like you and people like lots of other people to feel known, to feel understood, and to have more information than they had before.
To have information on how it is that life sometimes feels so weird and things sometimes feel unfair.
Right.
because they are unfair.
So, Virginia, if anyone wants to reach you, how would they go about finding you on the social medias?
I would love everybody to follow me on TikTok at Badinia, Badinia, if you do not already do so. That's also my Instagram. That's also my website where you can find my dates.
Like the dates you're going on?
Yeah, I put all my dates up there. I put what restaurant
Dinner with Larry.
Right. I put dinner with Larry. I give a description of Larry so you can maybe recognize him when he's not with me. And you can just enjoy.
It's a spaghetti and meatballs dinner.
One time I was on a date in Long Beach. And I got a message.
The LBC.
I got a message on a dating app the next day of a guy who was like, I was sitting next to you when you were on this date and it didn't seem to be going that good. But then I heard you were on OkCupid. So he just dug through OkCupid until he effing found me.
Thanks. Hey, dude. Thanks for being a super creep.
Super stalker creep.
You cannot find Virginia on OkCupid at this point. So do not try.
There's it's not me. Laura, where can people find you online?
Well, they can always write to the show at hello@mysistersatherapist.com. So if you have encouraging words or ideas for a future show, Virginia and I were discussing some ideas from a listener before we came on. So yeah, we would love your feedback and we'd love to hear your ideas. Also, if you'd like to hire us, you can send an email to hireus@mysistersatherapist.com and tell us, the women's retreat you want to hire us for. If you want to check me out professionally, I guess, you can go to my website, lauraryan.org. Or if you want to check out my TikTok, 330 followers and growing, I am Laura Ryan.
Find out what 330 followers already know.
That this show is pretty great.
Well, in closing, we do want to say, I keep telling Laura, no one knows this movie.
I know, that's why it's funny.
In the immortal words of Billy Ray Valentine, Capricorn.
We can make it, baby. Me and you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.